Hello everyone, this is Ian from Action Language at Action Foundation. I'm joined again today by one of our volunteers, Gary.
Hello everybody.
And in this video, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the problems you might have if you decide to go swimming outdoors here in the UK. So that could be in a river, in a lake, in a reservoir. Reservoir is a sort of man-made lake, an artificial lake, which can be a lot deeper than you might think, and also in the sea. So we've had some very hot weather recently, Gary, and a lot of people will be cooling off in the most natural way possible, but there can be some dangers in this, I believe.
Yes, indeed. I suppose rivers and canals first. One thing that I know from experience people get into difficulty with is they jump in and they don't realize there's something that's going to hurt them underneath the water. So I can think of cases where, particularly in canals, people have dumped old prams or something, or old bicycles.
Yeah,
You
shopping
jump in
trolleys.
yeah, and then you can get quite a nasty injury. So that's one obvious thing. And also, you can not be aware sometimes that the speed of the water is more than you think. Once water goes above your knee, you can be swept along by a current. So just be careful to make sure that the water's not flowing too fast and that you're not going to get carried away.
Yeah, so there's a few things to unpack in that, which is, I guess, that one is that if you can't see through the water, so sometimes seawater or river water, you can see the bottom, you can see what's there. If you can't, you probably need to check first. So it's perhaps, putting one foot in before diving in, even though it looks cool to kind of jump into the water. And also we have currents. Now currents, I guess, there are different types of currents, but perhaps the most dangerous ones are the ones which you can't see on the surface. So a current basically is the movement of the water, and different parts of the water can be faster than other parts, depending on what the base of the body of water is like. And sometimes you can have a very calm bit next to a really fast current, and sometimes you get two currents working against each other. And this is very dangerous because it can actually pull you under the water between the currents.
Yes, absolutely. And being pulled underwater is something that can happen in rivers and in the open sea. What you need to do is check, go to the tourist information, and if they don't know themselves, they will tell you. You can phone the Coast Guard to check whether it's safe. And what looks like a nice calm sea, you don't know what rocks there might be underneath. And the power of water is enormous, and if you get pulled into danger or pulled out to sea, you may not have the strength to stop yourself in time or get back safely to shore. So it's just a question of checking first, not to alarm anybody. There are plenty of places it's very safe to swim in open water. Other places, even the most experienced swimmer wouldn't go there knowing the danger.
Yeah, so it's possibly a good idea to check around you when you find some water to see if there are any signs saying no swimming or no diving in these areas. And even if you see other people doing it, it's best to follow these signs. If you're going to the beach, a lot of beaches which are used very often. So for example, in our area, in North Tyneside, if you go to Tynemouth or Whitley Bay, there are special areas of the beach where you can go swimming. So you should swim between the flags which are half yellow and half red.
Yeah.
And these are the places that you should go. If you see flags which are only red, then this means that it's dangerous and you shouldn't go swimming there.
Yes.
If you go further up the coast towards Northumberland, again, you have very beautiful beaches there, but they tend not to have these flags. This is not because they're dangerous or not dangerous, it's just because they're not so popular, so they haven't got lifeguards around. You should still be careful. And Gary, you were telling me that someone who's that you know who's got some experience of water said that actually the coast here is one of the most dangerous.
That's right. Yes, very experienced kayaker. That's a form of bit like canoeing. We won't go into the difference between the two. And he did a big journey in his kayak, and he said the most difficult conditions and dangerous conditions were on the Northumberland coast as he was trying to get up the coast to Holy Island. So do be careful. Some places it's safe, other places it's a risk. And I think there's one other thing I think it's important to mention in terms of hidden dangers, and one is contamination of the water. So whatever you do, try not to get water inside your mouth, and certainly don't swallow any of it, because sometimes there are poisonous things in the water. Some of them are natural, others are man-made. But
yeah,
you can end up feeling very poorly.
Yeah, it's always worth checking this. Many beaches that have lots of people going swimming there, or which are popular with families, it will tell you about the cleanliness of the water. There's usually a sign in the car park. So even if you're walking there or you've come by bus, it's always useful to find these notices. And sometimes there might be a red flag on the beach, not because it's dangerous because of the the water pulling you out into the sea. It might be just because the water's not clean enough to swim. So do please check this. I'm going to share below some advice about what to do if you get into difficulties in the sea from one of our official organizations, which is the RNLI, which is the Lifeboat Association, and it's also a charity and a really important one here in the UK. But they had a big campaign a couple of years ago about floating. Okay, so this is that if you get into danger, if you get caught in a current, if you get into a place where it's too deep for you, the natural reaction is to panic, to flail around, to try to swim. But actually the safest thing you can do is to float and let the current carry you to somewhere where it is a bit safer, where you can either swim back in a slightly less dangerous place, or where you can then wave for help. So if you get into difficulties initially, try not to panic, try to float until you're able to breathe somehow, and then do that. So we'll share that advice with you, and the advice on swimming is to swim parallel to the beach, to the shore. So not to swim out into the water or to swim kind of in a diagonal, but to try to swim along so that you can see, oh, have I gone too far or not? Okay, so to swim along parallel to the beach.
Yeah, I'm just reminded of an incident and some golden advice if you do get swept away. I remember on one rescue we were out on, and there's a river that comes off the hill, and one of the team members who'd been across it 100 times got swept away, and he was carried about 300 meters downstream by the water. It was too strong. What do? Try to go down on your back, feet first, because then you can use your feet to fend off any objects that might hurt you. And the golden advice is do not try to stand up until your bottom hits the floor.
Yeah, so yeah, that's good advice for, you know, rivers and streams, definitely.
Yeah.
All right. And just one final point there about water. So you might see these places I mentioned earlier called reservoirs, which are artificial. Sometimes they are very, very deep, but they look often very beautiful because sometimes they are artificially blue, but they are perhaps some of the most dangerous places to swim, and they will have signs saying no swimming. So please follow that official advice.
Yeah, they're very steep-sided, so if it's difficult to get out if you're tired.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and I like swimming outside, and I have a dog as well. And you know, the number of times I've had to pull the dog out of the water because you know they've gone in but they can't get out. So that's another important thing. If you want to go into, you know, a river or a lake, make sure that you can get back out again.
That's general advice for being on the hills. I also climb, and the golden rule is beware an irreversible move. Think, if I go down this place, can I get back out if it's too dangerous? So yeah, you often see sheep that have gone too far on the hills and they're stuck in some place and they can't go up or down. So it's common sense, but when we're out relaxing, it's easy to drop your guard. And every time I've ever got myself into problems, it's because I've been daydreaming, because I was having such a lovely time.
Yeah. So I guess it's, you know, we don't need to, you know, we need to always remember to not underestimate nature in that way, especially water, because of the, you know, the powers underneath the surface there. And also the horrible things, as Gary mentioned, which might be under the water, put there by our fellow humans. So, you know, do be careful. And remember, there is the Coast Guard. They will come and save you or your friend if you're out at sea. You know, and a lot of us in this country, we do support the RNLI and also the Air Sea Ambulance, very important charities which will help people who are in trouble in the water get to hospital. So swim outdoors, especially when it's been very, very hot, like it has been recently. But do be careful, stay safe, even if that makes you a little bit boring compared to some of your friends. Thank you.
Great.